Logic, if it can be applied universally, is logic, but logic that can't be applied universally is propaganda. This is why in fairy tales, the crossover of the more you can connect them, if it holds true to each one of theirs infamy, it's like a cosmological constant, empty space having a value in any empty space. In the business world, if it's globally economy, when the third nation dies, it's because the first worlds are struggling. All the toothpaste cap factories that aren't able to do that in third world countries, or the farmers with 2 cents. So my 2 cents would be the up shit's creek without a paddle, because the people pushing globally would want that power over everyone. Stinks worse than a pig rolling in you-know-what. Life works best when it's abundant, and the more that it's contained, it's something that takes the joy out of it and just leaves it on the side of the road. I'm not gonna go into nanoparticles and explain how they're offshoots of fodder. The emphasis on how well something's sculpted could be as though if there was all the world made up of nanoparticles, and Excalibur was that sword of all that congealed together. Taking the sword out of the stone made that relation chaotic. And so the cat's out of the bag. You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. In the Bible, there's a guy who was sacrificing his son on this altar. I don't remember his name, but that's almost as Humpty Dumpty who fell off a fence and putting him back together again. I think in the story in the Bible, the guy didn't murder his son on the rock because he heard God. And so ostensibly Humpty Dumpty did not hear God. That ability to do that, it would sound kind of like a high IQ, but then being really dumb at the same time. Nothing short of how Humpty Dumpty fell. Maybe it was the boy who cried wolf had something to do with Humpty Dumpty falling, because he heard that from afar. The boy who cried wolf. The show Demon Slayer would have it that humans don't recover from injuries as quickly as these demons running around as humans. The show Demon Slayer would have it humanoid figures do. That's daunting, because when you get sunburnt, it's the same case. You're gonna have red skin for the duration, red skin for the duration of in excess of 2 to 3 days before it starts changing into a darker melanin from a redder abrasion, if you're lucky. And all it is just windburn, but it's been done by sun radiation. That's all. History is important because as a group of people doing things to alter what a modern society is within their culture had been known for blood sacrifices in the past. That kind of faded out, and then, but more currently, voodoo and witch doctors with sacrificing children in Uganda is actually part of a problem. And I mention this to be a little more tasteful. We're talking about how honey comes. honeycombs are from pollination and flowering. This happened to evolve in the Cretaceous period 60 to 140 million years ago. Bees and flowering plants started to get pollination in an occurrence from an evolution. It would be where the male plants had attracted bees in order to have the male reproductive cells be carried and transferred into the flower's female reproductive units. This were done by the bees, and they had these little pollen balls that had gone on their legs, almost as though when people would stomp on grapes to make the wine. And it's that's colorful, along with how nature being various degrees of what's good and bad in a randomization makes for more of a process that is better quality. This can be in less processed pollen on bees' legs. This is seen as hazy and lighter, the pollen on bees' legs. And the process of this is somewhat of a control group, because when honey has more glucose in it, it would crystallize easier than if it were made up of mostly fructose. Then it would be sweeter. But it's the combination of the fructose and the glucose that actually makes the honey a thing. But first, back to the pollen. Within plants, you can have yourself go ahead and have a clover. I forget the second word, but it's a clover something, and this is what would have 1/20th of a pin's head of pollen from what it produces, versus what on its opposite end is the eucalyptus of Australia, and this has a lot of pollen that comes out, but however its flowering season is really small in a window that sometimes doesn't even occur. And so the arranging of amounts of different quantities would call for bees to be going wherever the work is. And so that's a second layer of a randomization, out of which stars have in atoms, and then the electrons around the atoms making the stars light up. So then the bees are used in just calling wherever they go close about stuff that has enough pollen to be useful for. That's extremely important to just on-time delivery. Maybe it could be vertically integrated with pages out of their book. And so then with also animals like ants and other creatures pollinate plants, but it's the honeybee in particular that can increase crop yields 60% because of their ability to collect in hives. And so that the system that we have over here that reminded me of an electronic acoustic one, where if you get it just right, you can actually coincide one into the other. I would be pressing a button and it would be clicking, you know, like those dolphin trainer devices that they click. But it was in an electric box. So as I clicked, it had a speaker kind of like this region. And so the acoustics of the clacking of electric sparks and everything, they would sound once I did the click but there was a grace period between the two systems interacting, and that was